I'll use the old lady's room. Let her sleep on the streets or something. The two of them laughed heartily, trying to drive me out. I couldn't believe they would go this far. Come on, get out, you're in the way. Hey, wait a minute. As I was lost in thought, Jessica forcefully tried to push me out of the room. And when I resisted, even Mike joined in. They grabbed my arm and threw me out of the house. Goodbye, you money-grubbing old hag. The front door slammed shut in front of me. I decided to contact them using the cell phone I had in my pocket. If that's how you want it, I'll show you. After a few days, Mike contacted me. I smirked to myself, thinking like finally, they got what's coming to them. I was told by the realtor to vacate. Yes, I sold it. At my words, Mike exclaimed in disbelief. Don't just do things on your own. This house is Dad's. It's in my name, though. I'm Catherine Thompson. I'm a 54-year-old working homemaker, and it's about time I start thinking about retirement. My parents were wealthy, owning several properties. Because of this, my parents always let me pursue whatever I wanted, saying, it's all part of the experience. I might sound boastful, but I think I'm pretty talented. I've been able to use that talent in my work, and I think I've earned quite a bit. I have a husband named Matthew and 2 children. It's a bit embarrassing, but it was love at first sight. Oh, actually, me too. I met Matthew through an arranged date my parents set up. We fell in love at first sight, dated for a few years, and then got married. Even now, on our anniversary, we dine at the restaurant where he proposed, showing how close we still are. My daughter, Ariel, has always been calm and diligent. Ariel, have you finished your homework? I've already finished. Mom, can you help me with this part? Isn't that something you haven't learned yet? Yeah, but since I have the time, I want to study it. She would study proactively without being told and was always eager to take on various challenges, just like me. Music, swimming, piano. She was curious about many things and always kept her promise to stick with something for at least a year. I support Ariel in the same way my parents did for me, encouraging her to gain experiences. Matthew, my husband, agrees with this approach, and we've been watching over her together. On the other hand, Mike, Ariel's older brother and our eldest son, is frankly not the best kid. Hey, old lady, give me some money. Hey, what's with that tone? Besides, I've told you if you want money beyond your monthly allowance, you should get a job, right? Stingy hag. Fine, I'll go to Grandma's. Mike, wait! My mother-in-law dotes on Mike since he's the first grandson, always spoiling him. She often says, Mike can do whatever he wants, indulging every whim of his. Of course, I've repeatedly told her this isn't good for Mike and tried to keep them apart, but behind our backs, she keeps on pampering him. Not only me, but Matthew and my father-in-law also reprimanded my mother-in-law. However, both my father-in-law and us are working, so we can't keep an eye on her all the time. Taking advantage of this, my mother-in-law was cold to Ariel just because she's a girl. After she suddenly passed away during Mike's college years, she couldn't interfere anymore, but by then it was too late to change Mike's twisted nature. Mike, I heard you stole money from Ariel's wallet. Shut up. Whatever I do is my business. Don't mess around. If you're gonna say that, leave. Live on your own. Yeah, I'll go. There's no point in me being here if Grandma isn't around. And so, after a big fight with Matthew, Mike left and disappeared. So, for us, Ariel was pretty much the only child we had. A few years later, Ariel became independent and moved out. Hey, Catherine, it might be a good time to move, don't you think? Yes, our lease is about to be renewed, it might be the right time. We currently live in an apartment. We chose the place prioritizing our children, so it's close to schools but far from both our workplaces. We're not getting any younger, and we'd also love to try gardening, so we decided to build a new house. I'm sorry, it's a busy period at work. It's okay. I'm more adept at handling such things due to my job. Thanks. In return, you can decide the interiors and such however you like. I had more free time and, being in real estate, it fell to me to search for our new place. Between work, I checked out various places and consulted with Matthew before finally settling on one. And so, we began preparing to move into our new $3 million mansion over the weekend. Hey, long time no see. Mike? Just then, Mike appeared. Having not heard from Mike in years, I was taken aback. Soon after, a flashy dressed woman peeked out from behind him. "Hi there. I'm Jessica, Mike's wife." "Huh? Come on, your son is back. Let us in already." The woman, named Jessica, greeted us in a laid-back manner. While I was trying to wrap my head around this unfamiliar woman, Mike barged right in. "Mike? And who is she?" At the sudden appearance of the two, Matthew looked displeased. Unfazed by our skeptical gazes, the pair plopped down onto the sofa. "What brings you here after all this time?" "Well, we got married, so we thought we'd drop by. Also, we came for a wedding gift." "You should have told us before getting married. That's just common courtesy." Tension was palpable between Matthew and Mike. Just as it seemed like they might break out into an argument, Jessica chimed in, "Aren't you gonna offer us some coffee?" "Huh? Don't keep a CEO's daughter waiting. Hurry up with the coffee and snacks. And don't give me any of those old-fashioned treats, bring out some cake or something." What an attitude. Jessica just waltzed in and started ordering us around as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "That's enough. Both of you, get out." Before I could lose my temper, Matthew snapped. He angrily kicked the two of them out. Watching the scene, I sighed deeply. Not only has he not changed, but he also brought along someone even more troublesome. Even though he was so spoiled by my mother, why is he so different from Ariel? Matthew looked exhausted and buried his face in his hands. How did he end up like this? "Well, we're moving soon anyway." "Yeah, it's perfect timing. Let's get ready to move quickly." Even though we'd be moving soon, we decided to leave it at that. I thought it best to let Ariel know what happened, so I called her. "That's perfect timing. I was just about to contact you." "Oh? What's going on?" Apparently, Mike had approached Ariel as well. Just like with us, he demanded a wedding gift from her. "Since it's about the mothers, you may think that it will be okay if you move, but it's time to be careful." After Ariel's warning, we decided to be cautious just to be safe. My mother-in-law was incredibly persistent. Even after we moved, she managed to track us down and make contact. He's been greatly influenced by such a person. Maybe being overly cautious is the right approach after all. Afterwards, we successfully moved to a condo. The condo was a bit big for just the two of us, but it was quite comfortable. Oh, there's a call from Ariel. As Matthew and I were relaxing with a cup of coffee after the move, Ariel called. "Mom, I'm sorry." "What's wrong, dear?" When Ariel began the conversation with an immediate apology, I was taken aback and couldn't help but tilt my head in confusion. Seeing my puzzled expression, Matthew also looked at me, asking, "What's wrong?" "My brothers might have stolen the spare key." For emergencies, we had given Ariel a spare key. We trusted Ariel not to do anything weird, and since she had left some of her personal belongings at our place when she moved out of her parents' house, we gave her a key so she could retrieve them whenever she wanted. "Tell me more about what happened." According to Ariel, when she was approached the other day, she was handling the situation right at the front door. But Mike apparently tried to lay a hand on Ariel. Taking advantage of her momentary shock, Jessica sneaked into the house. Ariel immediately called her boyfriend. Thanks to her boyfriend who managed to drive them out, the situation was under control. However, just to be safe, Ariel stayed at her boyfriend's house for a while. When she returned home and checked, it seemed that only the spare key to our mansion was missing. "I'm so sorry. They might come to your place." "Yes, I understand. Please be careful." "I'll be fine. With everything going on, my boyfriend and I decided to move in together." After hanging up with Ariel, I shared the situation with Matthew. I can't believe he'd even think of hurting his own sister. How far has he fallen? And then, as Ariel predicted, Mike and his gang showed up at our door. "Hey there, welcome home." "Welcome back. We're starving, get dinner ready." When I got home from work, Mike and his crew were casually lounging around. They must have used the stolen key to just let themselves in. In the room I had cleaned during my work breaks, there were snack wrappers and empty liquor cans strewn everywhere. Seeing that, I quickly locked myself in the bathroom and called Matthew. "These damn." Matthew rushed home and immediately tried to kick the two of them out. After a lot of thuds and noises, things finally went quiet. I peeked out. Matthew, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Matthew's face was all flushed, and I immediately cooled his cheeks. It seems Matthew was overpowered by Mike while trying to resist. Back in the day, Mike had a sharp tongue but never got physical. Jessica apparently egged Mike on, shouting, "Do it." Her influence might be the cause. Dad! Mom! Are you okay? After a short while, Ariel arrived. It seemed Matthew had contacted her. I'm so sorry, because they stole from me. It's not your fault. Yeah, the real problem is Mike. Ariel was so remorseful, she apologized to us. We comforted her and discussed our next steps. We were sure Mike and his crew would be back. So, we started to formulate a plan. Ariel, there's something you should know about this house. At that moment, we revealed the truth only to Ariel. A while later, just as predicted, Mike and his crew came back. And they brought a ton of baggage with them. It seems Mike quit his job and, on top of that, terminated his apartment lease, forcefully moving in with us. I'd love the master bedroom. Jessica seemed to take a liking to my room, which was spacious and got the most sunlight. However, after a stern look from Matthew, she reluctantly backed off. Well, I guess we'll just have to let him stay. Mike, having recently lost a fight to Matthew, had been keeping to himself. But then, Matthew was suddenly rushed to the hospital while at work. Though he was already swamped with work, dealing with Mike seemed to have added an immense amount of stress. The doctor informed us he had developed a stomach ulcer because of it. It's punishment for defying me, the son. Once a week-long hospital stay was decided, Mike and his gang started doing as they pleased. They treated me like a mere servant and ridiculed me constantly. Dad only became the boss because his parents owned the business. He got cocky even though he's got no real talent, and look where that got him. Mike, what on earth are you saying? And by the way, isn't the reason you're living here because your husband's family is loaded? Doesn't that seem a bit sneaky? They eventually started making such accusations. I held back my responses, fearing that any pushback might provoke Mike into becoming violent. She continued like, "This house is wasted on you. Plus, if you weren't around, we could use that room." Right. We don't need the old hag. Hey, what do you think you're doing? I had a bad feeling as Jessica slowly approached me. Then, Jessica suddenly pushed my shoulder. I'll use the old lady's room. Let her sleep on the streets or something. The two of them laughed heartily, trying to drive me out. I couldn't believe they would go this far. Come on, get out, you're in the way. Hey, wait a minute. As I was lost in thought, Jessica forcefully tried to push me out of the room. And when I resisted, even Mike joined in. They grabbed my arm and threw me out of the house. Goodbye, you money-grubbing old hag. The front door slammed shut in front of me. I decided to contact them using the cell phone I had in my pocket. If you're up for it, I'll show you. A few days later, I got a call from Mike and his crew. To which I smirked, thinking finally, it's happening. They told us to leave from the real estate agent. Well, that's because I sold it. At my words, Mike's voice was one of disbelief. And as I was about to chuckle, his voice turned to anger. You sold it! Why'd you do that? Well, if you're not gonna live in it, there's no need for it, right? I wonder if Jessica was listening. I could hear her shouting. Her voice alone was enough to make me chuckle. Don't just do whatever you want. This house was Dad's. It's under my name though? What? But Mom, you just spent all of Dad's money. Apparently, Mike had always been told by his mother-in-law that I was a gold digger, squandering Matthew's hard-earned money. So, he couldn't believe the house was under my name. For the record, I inherited my father's real estate properties. Among them are luxury apartments. Just from those, I could live comfortably. Plus, I'm the CEO of a real estate company. I actually earn more than Matthew. So, why were you always so frugal? Sure, our family has had money for a while. But spending it recklessly? That's just foolish. If you want to splurge, earn it yourself. That's how I was raised. That's why, even during my college days, I worked part-time if I wanted something. And I told Mike and Ariel the same thing. Ariel always listened to me and diligently worked part-time to buy what she wanted, while Mike simply got things from his doting grandmother and bought whatever he fancied. As for lessons, I was funding them because I genuinely wanted them to learn. Speaking of which, Jessica. can you hear me?
Huh? What?
Turns out, I know your parents. Ever since Mike and his family first came to my house, I've been taking action. Relying on Jessica's claim of being a CEO's daughter, I investigated her family background. As it turns out, Jessica's family business was one I had dealings with in the past. I've let them know everything you did to me. I'll show you who you picked a fight with. Hearing my words, Jessica let out a gasp. I chuckled and hung up the phone.
That was some reaction.
Currently, I'm in Matthew's hospital room. He's been recovering well since then and should be discharged soon. By the way, after being kicked out, I've been staying with Ariel. But, are you sure about selling it? What about our memories? It's fine. That house was more like a vacation home anyway. Actually, that condo wasn't something we bought, it was part of my father's inheritance. Our new house is currently under construction. However, since our lease was about to expire, we were temporarily living in that mansion. Hey! Did you come by again, Ariel?
Hey Dad, how's it going?
Yeah, looks like I'll be discharged as planned. In that case, Ariel handed us a brochure. It was from a travel agency.
How about taking a trip to relieve some stress?
Upon hearing that, we both nodded in agreement. After Matthew safely got discharged, we coordinated and went on a long vacation. We turned off our phones during the trip, leaving only an emergency contact, and fully enjoyed ourselves. When we turned our phones back on after our scheduled trip, there were several missed calls. All of them were from Mike and his wife. Look at this. Mike sure does cling, doesn't he? True that. He really takes after his grandma in that way. As we were discussing this, we received another call from Mike. I decided to pick it up and see what he wanted.
Finally got through. Where have you been all this time?
Seems like my subordinates did their job properly after all. After being evicted from the house by the real estate agent, Mike and his family had been searching for us. But they couldn't reach us since our phones were off. And since we were on a trip, they couldn't find us in the neighborhood either. He mentioned he'd been staying at some motel, but hearing that, I thought, what does he expect me to do? That was honestly my reaction.
I'm sorry for kicking you out. Please help me out, I apologize.
No thanks.
Don't say that. Even Jessica's parents have abandoned us.
Jessica's family owned a construction company. There was a time when some bad rumors circulated, and they struggled to get contracts, which negatively affected their performance. Knowing the kind nature of the owner, I gave them a big project to help boost their performance. After identifying and dealing with the source of those rumors, her parents felt indebted to me.
That's why they disowned Jessica.
It seems they've rejected the two of them. Well, it makes sense. Oh, really? Well then, you and your wife better pull yourselves together. With that, I hung up the phone. After that, we finally returned to our newly finished home. The interior, which we had meticulously designed, felt so cozy. I was excited about our future life, and Matthew looked at me with a warm smile. The next day, when I went to work, Ariel approached me. I ran into Mike the other day. Oh, was everything okay? My boyfriend was there and the police got him right away, so it was all good. Ariel, being my successor, often checks out the work sites. It seems Mike saw Ariel during one of those visits and tried to approach her, but he froze when her boyfriend shot him a sharp glare. On top of that, someone called the police, and he was taken away almost immediately. He looked so down, rejected by the whole family. That's sad. But he brought it on himself. Exactly. Just because we're family doesn't mean we'll forgive everything. We chatted like that, then went our separate ways to our jobs.
Oh, Catherine.
This time, Jessica was waiting directly in front of the office. Now that Jessica knew who I really was, she tried to butter me up.
You're such an incredible person. I misunderstood before.
I ignored Jessica and sent a message to Matthew, who had recently returned to work. It seems he got to leave work early since he's still recovering. He replied that he was already at home preparing dinner.
Don't ignore me.
It seems Jessica was getting pissed off from being ignored. In response, I just showed her a silent video.
What?
Watching the video, Jessica's face turned pale instantly. It showed her rummaging through a dresser in my room. Matthew and I had set up surveillance cameras everywhere and caught all her misdeeds on tape.
That's just a misunderstanding.
I also have evidence of you selling my belongings. The next thing I showed her was a listing on a particular online marketplace app. There, my personal items were up for sale, including a bag I had custom-made for myself. This is a bag I had personally commissioned from a dear designer friend of mine. Why is it being sold here?
Shut up. It's everyone else's fault for not giving me money.
When I indirectly blamed her, Jessica started to lash out. Luckily, the security staff immediately restrained her, so I wasn't harmed. Jessica was then taken away by the police. Later, it turned out that Jessica had damaged and knocked down some signs outside the company during her outburst and was arrested for vandalism. Jessica's parents apologized profusely to me.
It's not your fault, so please, no more apologies. Just ensure she never approaches us again.
I promised to forgive Jessica's parents on that condition. Afterward, Matthew, Ariel, and I headed to the police station. As we arrived, Mike, who had just been released, appeared.
You came to pick me up.
We didn't come for that. We just came to make a clean break. Mike's face lit up seeing us, but he froze hearing Matthew and Ariel's words. Then, the two expressed their long-held grievances directly to Mike.
You've always ignored our parents' wishes but expect us to clean up after you. Aren't you ashamed?
What's so great about being the son? What have you ever achieved more than me? Mike's eyes welled up with tears as he faced their accusations. He looked to me for support, but I just coldly stared back. Afterward, Mike was thrown into Jessica's family construction business, where he's apparently now working at the toughest sites. He seems to be getting a harsh reality check there. Jessica will be joining him soon, her parents had mentioned. There's no escaping. I have connections everywhere due to my diverse skills.
Finally free from him. Yes. We don't have to be dragged around by him anymore.
We were finally free from the presence of Mike. There is a bond as parents. However, with his grandmother, Mike labeled me as a gold digger and forcibly kicked me out. I just couldn't find it in my heart to forgive him.
Just because we're family doesn't mean there aren't things we can and can't forgive. So, Catherine, it's not wrong to feel you can't forgive. Don't worry about it.
Matthew, sensing how I felt, reassured me with those words. He's always on my side, always there to help me. I'm so grateful to have married him. Since then, we've lived in peace, without the threat of Mike and the others.
Mom, can you leave this matter to me? Yes, every experience is valuable. Give it a try.
Ariel, who married her boyfriend, has been improving rapidly, showing off her talents. She might soon take over my position. If that happens, I want to retire quickly and travel with Matthew again. I enjoyed our recent trip so much that I kept thinking about it.
Hey, if Ariel takes over for me, shall we go on another trip?
Yeah, that sounds great. I've been thinking about wanting to travel together again too. We made a firm promise. Looking forward to our retirement, I smiled from the depths of my heart.